Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the podcast. And today we're kind of starting a series on governing AI at scale because now that we all have AI and we're all learning what AI does, it's really ingrained on all of our devices. It's ingrained in our enterprise. It's ingrained in everything that we do. And we really want to figure out the best way to move forward with it from the enterprise level here at ServiceNow. And joining us, we have three experts in the field. We have Ravi Krishnamurthy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bobby. Super excited to be here. It's an exciting time to be alive.
We also have Peter Weigt. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Bobby. Appreciate being here.
And of course, rounding it out, we have Sampada Chavan. Welcome.
Hey, hello, nice to be here.
And these three experts were going to really talk about all the aspects to this. And Ravi, I want to come to you because you're really going to set this off for us. This idea that you had mentioned to us before is this idea of hidden AI in your enterprise, which sounds like something we really need to be concerned about, or is this something that we want to focus on as a business core?
You said it right. AI is everywhere. It's in every little thing. Almost everybody in the company wants to or is trying to do AI. So your AI all over the place. But AI at the end of the day, statistically, could do things that you don't intend it to do. So there's a tremendous excitement of the potential of what AI can do, but there's also tremendous fear about what harm it could do. So there's a feeling of there's a loss of control, especially for people in the company whose job it is to protect the company and their customers.
Right, because it seems like with everyone being tasked to bring AI into their workflows, there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of, hey, this looks good. I can try it, but I don't really know if that's going to pass my security issues in my company at all. So this is something we need to focus on, correct?
That's correct. There's a lot of risks. Technology always has risks, but AI kind of amplifies existing risks and create new risks. So how do you deal with them? What are those risks? When it's hidden AI, you don't even know what you don't know. And that's like it's a scary place to be, especially if you're interested in control, you're interested in managing the enterprise and driving value as well. It's not just about risk. A lot of AI doesn't give you value. It's just stuff that consumes a lot of GPUs and not good for the environment. And then it's just exhaust, right? So there's how do I make sure I'm delivering value? How do I make sure I'm minimizing risk? Both of this is something anybody who's concerned with AI across the enterprise is thinking about all the time. And it's a incredibly exciting time, like I said, but it's also quite, there's a lot of fear of loss of control.
But now we've got to figure out the idea of discovery. We got to weed out and find all of this stuff, which of course brings us to Sampada Chavan. Sampada, before we get deep into this conversation, please introduce yourself to everybody listening and your role here at ServiceNow.
Hey everyone, so I'm Sampada Chavan. I am the founding PM of AI Control Tower and also a practitioner of the responsible AI practices as part of the AI Foundations and Responsible AI team in ServiceNow. Uh, it has been a fun journey taking our AI Control Tower product from a concept to taking it to market earlier this year, and super excited to bring to this conversation like my experiences, what I have seen both as practicing responsible AI as well as building the product out.
Well, this is going to be great because I know AI Control Power is really one of those pillar products at ServiceNow that is really there to help our customers and, of course, in turn, their customers in really making sure we're using AI responsibly. Talk to us about this discovery problem. How are we checking what we're doing? Is that the right way to look at it? That it's a check, so to speak?
This is interesting. Customers might not know, or organizations might not know that they and their employees are using a lot more AI than they think they know. And that is the discovery problem, right? Like every organization, every customer wants to embrace AI, bring around that digital transformation, and they have their own initiatives of saying that, okay, we are going to be delivering Microsoft Copilot, or we are going to have Workday to help with our reporting and HR practices. And those are like initiatives that are known. But with the advent of Chat GPT, and a bunch of products that are out there, it has actually become very easy for an end user like you and me to go and embrace your AI and use it for our day-to-day activities. So this is where you are now seeing employees go out on their own and start using ChatGPT, or they could be using Perplexity, or they could be using a lot of these hundreds and hundreds of free tools that are available that just helps them to get their job done super easily, because that's what AI promises. And while it is absolutely important, right? Like AI is going to drive that productivity, it is going to bring that value to all of the teams. Very soon customers are realizing that, well, they don't have a full visibility on everything that's within their organization. There's that AI sprawl that's out there, and when they actually go to run that discovery, that's when they're going to see that, oh, it's 2 3 or maybe like 10 times the AI that is actually being used than they thought it would be. And this just brings in a big challenge, right? Like, you wouldn't know what is being used, how it is being used, and then has its own set of risks, security concerns that might be associated with.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because I know in my own work, it's like I found this AI tool that can do this and I can couple it with that. And then I can couple it to this thing. And when you really try to use ChatGPT and some of these other, just even the LLMs, it's, hey, you're going to use this part to cover this part and bounce back and forth. And then there's a startup that has a great idea that makes something and then you don't know where it's going from. And then there's the whole conversation about data pools and security, which makes everybody in the enterprise just tighten up and go, stop.
I think it's just the ease of access, right? Like, as you mentioned, AI is not new. AI and ML has been around for a while. It was just that only a select set of people who were very conversant about that technology, were experts in the technology, had access to it. They knew how to use it. It's just that with generative AI, with LLMs, the ability to write prompts which are as easy as giving simple instructions, it just makes it very easy for a normal user to be able to go and test things out, try it out. And they in their head are only thinking about, is this going to get my job done? But they are not really thinking around what are the issues and the concerns that I should be aware of, or I should be cognizant about, around data, privacy, security. They're probably not thinking about that. And that's actually what the problem is.
So that brings up that next question, and we're going to come back to it in a second when we talk with Peter. But I want to ask you this idea of risk. uh, Is there another way to think about it? Because risk is kind of scary. And at the same time, people also go, well, it's not, like you said, it's not my risk. I wrote it, it came out of my brain. So, of course, it's perfectly fine. But what's another way to think about risk?
I think it's not just my risk, right? Because again, a lot of the things are around personal information that might be out there. You wouldn't know where your data is going, who would have access to data. And it's personal data, but then there's also proprietary data that would belong to the company, where companies are sensitive about that. Wouldn't want your IP to be going out to a third party, wherein which might just expose them to the risk of competitors getting access to that data. And these are some of the things which the risk personnel or the security teams are most concerned about, because they are looking to protect the company's assets and the company data, which, as a citizen or a good citizen of an organization, I would want to try to do my best, but without those proper guardrails in place, I wouldn't know what risks and vulnerabilities I'm exposed to.
Right, because you have different departments that we don't always think about. You've got marketing,
Like, sales would be using it for, let's say, doing their sales predictions and sales forecasts, which is again super sensitive data.
Or even traditionally your product development process, right? Do you really want to have your company secrets, your like IP, all the stuff that you're developing? Do you really want to have that sent to Copilot and GitHub? Like to really have that analyzed? It's definitely a risk that customers are concerned about, and that the topic of governance is trying to mitigate and control as part of that, right? So that deliberately this goes there, and I'm cool with that, or I don't want this to go there because I'm not comfortable with this specific provider having my data and my core IP essentially.
People want to move fast because they're afraid that if they don't move fast, somebody's going to overtake them and leave them in the dust. And people want to go slow because of the security, legal, etc. that people follow. There is this tension. It's actually a tension of risks, and it's a tension of value as well. Right? So like it's just the flip side. Companies that are successful with AI confront risk and manage it explicitly. Because this tension we actually at ServiceNow believe can be made an end. That is, you can build trust and move fast. It's a good analogy is if you pave roads and people drive on paved roads with rules, you get a lot more traffic through than if everybody off-roaded with no rules. And so essentially, governance is a word that brings up like blocking and brakes and so on. In reality, it's a massive accelerator. Risk management is an accelerator. Good risk management is an accelerator. I'm an innovator. We are all innovators. We do AI risk management and AI security are very hot, important topics today, without which companies will not scale their AI well. Our goal is to drive value from AI, service to human beings from AI. But we will not be able to do it if we do not manage the risks to human beings and enterprises from AI effectively. That is the key. You'll see this team talk a lot about risk, but we talk about it in the service of reducing harm and driving value.
Well, that's a great concept for people to understand, Ravi, about governance. It's not the scary word in the conversation. But Peter, I want to go back to you on something that you mentioned. You talked about the different aspects that people are using AI for and creating things. And this is the business impact. This is where the wallet has to open or close if something goes bad. Before we get into it though, Peter, introduce yourself so all of us know your role here at ServiceNow.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Weigt. I'm the Senior Director for Responsible AI here at ServiceNow, and I'm trying to exactly bring that balance that Ravi just mentioned to life for ServiceNow. I'm trying to balance the speed of innovation, but also at the same time, make sure that the risk that we touched on is managed for ServiceNow and that we actually have a fast-moving product development pipeline and deliver great products for our customers by upholding trust and governance at the same time.
And that's got to be no small feat because there's a fork in the road, if we're going to use the road analogy a little bit, that you want to go fast, you want to make cool stuff. There's probably another tine in the fork, I guess, of is it going to be good? Can I do it? Explain this innovation issue that we have.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an innovation paradox that is going on there. That at some point you really have the business saying we really want to move fast, right? But at the same time, you have the risk team saying, I'm not really sure if we really want to do this, right? And so that's why you have this back and forth. And at ServiceNow, we really made sure that governance at the same time is not a blocker, it's a strategic enabler, exactly as Ravi said. We need governance to go faster, right? Another analogy is that we like to use is rock climbing. With the rope, you're actually much faster than without because you're always worried about like, am I making the right step, right? And that's what we're thinking about governance here as well at ServiceNow. We really want to use it as an accelerator to actually accelerate our product development for our customers so that they have the best possible trusted products at hand that they can use, right? And one of the examples from our own experience was we ultimately learned through multiple years of building AI products that these static checklists, these manual reviews and so on, like just doesn't really work. Before we called it AI Control Tower, we actually had earlier products we called internally Data as a Service. This was our internal product that we had that actually managed our data strategy, basically how we use data to build AI models and to basically govern the assets and so on. And then later we realized, okay, this tool really enables us to move faster because we had workflows that people could jump into, and we actually orchestrated and streamlined all the business processes around governance, and that really sparked the idea for the AI control tower that we see today on that Sampada is actually the PM for, and we actually have a really successful product just in the market now.
To me, it's always fun when I talk to everyone here at ServiceNow. It's like, we used workflows and we used our own product and we did all this stuff to make our product better by using our own product. It's just kind of a cool little way to the champagne factory that we all work at. But I want to ask you a follow-up on that, Peter. If we're going to have this innovation paradox where we want to move fast and we're going to set this rope for us to climb up, what's the opposite? What if we're climbing without a rope?
Then it becomes really slow and cumbersome, and you really will need to go through very manual steps that you have to go to this team, you have to go to that team, everybody's not connected. And ultimately, one thing that we saw as part of all the work, and that ultimately the automations and the workflows orchestrated through our AI control tower brings together, is it makes AI a team sport. That's one thing I see day in and day out in our work. AI has actually brought functions together that before were in silos. You didn't have them operate together. But for AI to really get the speed, the velocity of AI, and bring the value quickly through AI, you really need these functions to quickly work together in a multidisciplinary team sport. And that is something that we have seen, and why we actually need these workflows and tools. Because if you don't have it, these silos, you will never be able to break them down and get the velocity and the value out of AI. And that's how AI governance really helps you to move quick and actually gets you going on your AI journey quickly.
Well, let me ask you to go a little deeper on that, because I know I had a meeting earlier today where I was working on a project with somebody and somebody else was working on a project, and they were almost duplicates of each other. And we just didn't know we were working on the same AI thing. That's got to be a rather common issue. What are some of, explain that, and maybe some of these others that people are running into that AI Control Tower really helps with?
No, absolutely. I think that's a good one. It's a really classic one. I just had a briefing with a customer yesterday, and they actually brought this up as well, that they have these hackathons internally and people build functionalities. And then they realize, as they put them into Excel sheets and manually have to match it, there's a lot of like overlap, duplicates. And that's where really the automation, also AI control tower, comes into play. Like which use cases are used, which models are used, which data sets are maybe used across teams. And not knowing that could really put you at a big regulatory exposure. Like you don't know what is really happening. These days, you have to comply with the EAI Act, for example. There's some NIST risk management framework that is something that we in ServiceNow hold ourselves accountable to, and many customers as well. And you want to really manage that. And if you don't have the insight into what's really going on in your company, it's not just duplication, it's also actually regulatory exposure and potentially fines and penalties that you would occur and would have. And that's really an issue for us as ServiceNow and for our customers. And so that's why AI Control Tower and the features and the functionalities that we have with it internally, that we use internally, and also we deliver to our customers, is a tremendous benefit.
I know we're not going to get deep into it on this particular episode, but I know there's very few people who really understand how much regulation, actual becoming laws, are involved in AI, and in a good way, as we're talking about governance, that you've got to be aware of, or your product is not going to take off, right? This is a real issue. This is not a we'll figure it out. It's like, no, you're done.
Yeah, you can't really make it an afterthought. Generally, AI governance can't be an afterthought, and that's how we've thought about it in ServiceNow as well. We're really through the development process, the AI SDLC process. We actually have baked in governance at every step along the way, to not really just bolt it on, because you cannot just make it a checkbox or a checklist at the end. And I'm sure Sampada can talk a little bit more about it, through the entire life cycle, how AI Control Tower supports that notion to put governance through and through the life cycle.
So, Sampada, as the product manager of AI Control Tower, can you speak just briefly to this idea of regulations that Peter mentioned?
Yeah, it's absolutely important to make sure that you're capturing information along as you go, because the biggest challenge is that if something were to go wrong, either because you're not compliant with a specific standard or a requirement where you need to submit a report for your regulatory body, if somebody has to go back and find and collect all of that information, it's probably going to take them like weeks or months, because information is not in one single place, right? And you have to go find people, you have to go find people who worked on it. They may or may not be still around. Who knows what happened like 6 months ago? And this is where having that information in one single place, having those relationships, and actually making sure that the processes as you go along in that life cycle have accounted for that information actually just makes it very easy. So, as we talk about the product later on, we can definitely deep dive into it. But to Peter's point, it's like you're baking in your governance in the life cycle. It's not a checklist at the end.
Thank you, Sampada. That was great. So, to kind of wrap up this episode, Ravi, I want to come to you, and I want to give you a chance to really introduce yourself and your role here before we wrap this up, because you've been so patient with us. Ravi, tell us about your role here at ServiceNow.
So I have a role which sits on both sides of this tension. So I run most of the horizontals for AI at ServiceNow. So this means all the LLMs that we have, the third-party services we expose, the production infrastructure, governance across the life cycle that Peter and Sampada have talked about, as well as AI control tower. So it's a lot of what I do is what powers the AI in the platform, which then other teams can use to build solutions. I also run Voice, which is and then do end-to-end solutions as well. So I do both. I want to innovate fast. I'm all the time under the gun because we got to launch this product tomorrow or yesterday. And at the same time, we got to do it responsibly. And I have been, I'm one of the pioneers of Agile. And Agile is actually a way to move fast while building trust in a fast-moving environment. So I think the key point here is environment moves very fast, both from a business side. So what is delivering value today may not be valuable tomorrow or maybe less valuable tomorrow. And from a regulatory and risk side, where the regulations change almost every day, right? New things are coming. How do you make sense of this? You need people of different specialities to come together from legal, data governance, etc., in addition to the business, GTM, and other teams. How do you get all the perspectives together, bring this and continuously drive value and continuously be in an improvement flywheel? The companies that do this are become AI native and very, very, very successful, get 10x, 100x better than companies that do it in that manual way. Because when you do it manually, you just swing, the pendulum swing between the two risks. Or you just get paralyzed. You just don't do anything. So that is, to unlock this AI control tower, we basically packaged a lot of our learnings, the core, the real goodness of ServiceNow, the single data model. We are the only platform that offers products to all these cross-functional teams. All these, we packaged it. We made it one product that sits on CMDB, which is where it's a system of record for IT. So the AI, which is one way we start thinking of AI as digital workers, and we do help you manage them that way. But in another sense, they're also technology. So we kind of capture them in the CMDB and put all these workflows around them so that human beings are now in control of the AI within the enterprise and ensure they deliver lots of value, exponential value, and minimize the risks and the harm that they could cause. So really, right, when it comes to AI, velocity is critical. If you don't get high velocity, you'll not take off. But trust is everything.
And that definitely changes the visibility of AI, correct? Not just within the company, but also client-facing, I'm guessing. Is that correct?
What you want is for your end users, you want AI to be invisible. You just interact with it. But for the people in the company, you want complete visibility under the hood so that you can make sure that it's doing what it is supposed to be doing and not doing what harmful stuff. So it's really that dichotomy that you can manage. The control tower gives the stewards of the organization to that visibility, while AI itself is completely just everywhere.
Thank you, Ravi. That really gives us all a really good understanding of governing AI. And as we start off this series, and we're going to get deeper into it, this really helps set the stage. So I want to thank our guests for joining us, Ravi Krishnamurthy.
Thank you very much for having me.
And of course, Peter Weigt.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And last but not least, Sampada Chavan.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm your host, Bobby Brill. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit subscribe on whatever device you're listening to. And if you have any questions about anything you've heard today, please head over to ServiceNow.com and definitely join us for our next episode where we get deeper into the world of understanding and ensuring if your AI is compliant. Thanks for listening.